gentleman that's here this evening. I first met Jim 3 years ago when he was contesting a congressional primary, a Republican primary, in the 5th Congressional District. Jim was one of 7 candidates. It was a rather crowded field. I was quite impressed, and I'm not that easily impressed, but I was quite impressed with Jim's performance the night I saw him in Charlottesville, and I said to a number of folks afterwards, this is a guy that I think can do a lot of good for what's happening in this state as well as in this country. Jim started a construction business from the ground up, and it included both residential and commercial development. Today, the business consists of 9 different companies under the umbrella of the McKelvey companies, some of which operate in the Bedford, Virginia area. His success as a small business owner has allowed him to generously give back to the community with contributions and direct support to numerous charitable organizations and various community activities. Most of his donations are done quietly without any notoriety. Jim's a major sponsor for the Ronald McDonald Charities of Southwest Virginia. Jim recently was recognized as a Paul Harris Fellow of the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International. That foundation works to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. Jim is a longtime conservative activist involved in federal, state, and local politics, and an active member of a Tea Party. You know, I love these candidates. They've come around every election cycle. Boy, I'll tell you what, they get Tea Party about October, don't they? They really get Tea Party about this time of year. And then, mid-November, they say, tea who what? Okay, do any of them locally in Virginia that we think of? They come to mind. Some people think of Jim as a politician, but the truth is he's not. He wants to see the country and the state become more fiscally responsible in his lifetime. Doggone optimist. He also feels very strongly that the state needs to stop raising taxes and, more importantly, stop sending unfunded mandates to the counties, which in turn must raise taxes on its citizens to pay for the mandates. Establishing term limits for our elected officials is a mechanism to help make all this happen. In January of 2013, Jim started Virginia term limits, now a special project of his Take Our Country Back PAC, which he established in 2010 to elect constitutional conservatives. Without any further ado, please give a warm Mechanicsville Tea Party welcome to Jim McKelvey.
Please take that with a grain of salt. But to explain to you who I am and where I stand politically, I've got the Franklin County Republican headquarters has been in my building for the last 5 years. This year they're in my personal office because I just didn't have space for them, and I was more than happy to turn my personal office over to them. But across the street, now I've voted Republican all my life. I'm a fiscal constitutional conservative. Across the street for 2 years now, I got a billboard. It's got 2 manure spreaders facing each other. One's labeled Democrat machine, the other one Republican machine, with a caption underneath, can you tell the difference? I like to think the difference is about 3 inches, but they're both full. So it's a love-hate with me in Franklin County. In Bedford County, too, I've donated space. Bedford County, they're terrific people over there, but I went to a meeting, is it Pat Mullins?
Yes.
Head of the, whatever?
Yes.
And he got up and spoke first and said, and this was EW was at this thing also, but he said, boy, I wish Congress would start paying attention to the Republican creed. I got up, I was the last speaker, and I said, well, I appreciate what he said, but I wish our Richmond representatives would pay attention to the Republican creed. Term limits. After the 2012 election, we're all thrown for a loop. And I am so frustrated. You know, we go to the meetings, we talk rhetoric, and what gets done? We're nipping at the heels, but then they're just walking a little faster and still not paying attention to us. You know, we're just an annoyance. So I did my homework, said, what is it that we can get done in term limits. When I ran for Congress, I limited myself to 4 years, which some people said that was one of my problems why I didn't get elected. But my attitude was, if you can't get it done in 4 years, you know, what are you doing? And people say, well, you can't get it done in 4 years. I said, tell you what, until we the people demand that they get it done, it's not going to get done in 4 years. And in the end, it's our fault. When I ran for Congress, I'd say again and again, you want to know whose fault this is? Go home and look in the mirror. And I'm as guilty as anybody else. I haven't been politically active. Got to change that line. I haven't been politically active all my life. It's only been the last 5 years when that deficit really started ballooning and I got spooked, like so many of us. So I kept harping back on term limits, and I knew that a majority supported it, but how much of a majority? Because I was trying to find something that would have an impact, but at the same time have a real chance of happening, have real support out there. So it was, and it was funny that just recently Jim DeMint of the Heritage Foundation, 2 months ago, last question, if there's any one thing you could do to fix Congress, what would it be? Like that, he said term limits. But you have to start at the state level. Well, it just so happens I thoroughly agree with him. Because I thought about what's the first thing we'd love to do? Term limit to Congress. We'd love to do that, but that's a mission. So then I think I said, okay, how are we going to do this? But I don't want to just sign a petition and you know, say a prayer hoping they're going to get it done. I want this thing to have teeth. So essentially what we did is we came up with a petition that reads, Legislature, you've got 2 years from January of this next year. I told people, I don't care if I have 20 signatures. I am delivering this to the legislature. I'm going to tell the legislature, you've got 2 years to put this on the ballot in 2015 for we, the people, to vote on. I'm not asking you to term limit yourself. I'm telling you, give us the chance to decide whether or not. If you do not, we, the undersigned, pledge to vote you out in the 2015 primary. Easy, to the point. 8 years across the board. 8 years for delegate, 8 years for Senate, 8 years for governor. Why everybody 8 years? Because this has been turned down judicially when you have varying years with the executive and legislative. Now I'm going to refer to my notes. I know I'm probably... And why do we want term limits? We all agree. Our politicians have lost touch with us. They're no longer listening to us. And I've said this for many years. When they go to vote or write a bill, is this going to hurt or help my chances to get reelected? Period. That's their #1 concern. We need people in there who don't care, who don't want the job. And then we got to find these people, convince them to take the job, because they're going to go in there and get done what has to get done and come back home. Those are the kind of people we're looking for. 2, elections. Let's look at how these people are getting elected. We are controlled by the Democrat and Republican Party. Over 90% of the time, they vote the same. When we go to run against these people, we're running against a money machine. Congress, incumbents outspend their opponents 9-1 on average. Senate, 18-1. In our neck of the woods, we had a delegate who was getting reelected. They dropped, the Republican Party, the RPV, dropped $1 million getting him reelected for a job that pays $17,000 a year. Senator, who I happen to like this individual, they spent $1.2 million getting him elected. People, and now this turn, where this one delegate is running, nobody would even step up to the plate. Scared to death. And this individual voted for the highway bill. People in the counties don't even like it, but no one would step up to the plate to run against them. Another great reason for term limits. Support. 80%, in recent polling, 80% of people, both Democrat and Republican, 82% Republican, 78% Democrat, support this. And again, I can't stress this enough. We're not asking them to term limit themselves. We're asking them for we, the people, to be able to vote. Now, my personal take is, they're not going to do it. But what my intent is here is to keep collecting signatures, but just not signatures. I want people committed to give me that 2 hours, come 2015, to put on the blinders and vote on the body. Did the body get it done? No. Then vote them out. 15 states have term limits. Those 15 states the voters were able to directly petition something to be put on the ballot. Not once did it get turned down. The other 35, you got to go through legislature, and not one has term limits. If that alone doesn't irritate you, I don't know what will. What are the results if we get this done? I want to talk, well, I'll get on the Tea Party. What will it do? I've seen this. What's spooking me right now more than anything else is the apathy in this country. To me, is at an all-time high. Yeah. Volunteerism is way down. Again, the office, I've had Republican headquarters in my building for 5 years. We've had their Victory Center office, whatever you want to call it, in my office for over 3 weeks now, going on 3.5 weeks. We've had one person come in for about 2 hours to volunteer. My office manager's running the office, and myself when I'm there. It's just a spooky time. People feel that their vote doesn't count, and rightfully so. You just brought up the 2009, 2010 election. When that occurred, I thought absolutely, I was certain. In fact, I don't gamble and I put money on this. I bet somebody $100, we're going to flip 100 plus seats. I said, and if we don't, they won't get it. When we flipped 67 seats, I remember the day of the election said, they're not going to get it. Did they get it? I'll tell you, and there lies the problem. It's just 67 seats. It was a vast minority, and look at the country's more screwed up than ever. So, if we could get 500,000 people together to show up in 2015 and vote these people out, I guarantee you we'll flip upwards of 70% of the seats in the legislature. Think we're going to have their attention then? I absolutely guarantee you we're going to have their attention then. The greatest danger to a politician is losing their job. It'll inspire other states to do what we did. Let's say, and here's how I see this playing out. Again, I'm going to continue to collect. I'm hoping this thing will really take grassroots and start growing rapidly. And as I said, I'm going to introduce to them however many signatures we have, but I got 20 months to collect these signatures and get people committed to it. But let's say by next year, next fall, we got 300,000, 400,000 signatures. I guarantee you what's going to happen. The legislature is going to go, oh my, look what's going on. And then 2015, they're going to pass it. Oh yeah, we're going to get term limits, but we need another year. You can't vote us out. And that's when we got to stand strong and say, no, you had your chance. Now we're going to take care of business. But on the other side of the coin, if other states see the state of Virginia doing this, other states are going to go, wow. If it's working for them, it could work for us. And then we'll inspire other states to get this done. And then guess what? Then we turn our attention to the federal level. And that's where we need to get. Why the Tea Party? I've been a Tea Party person from the get-go. Went to Washington the whole bit. You know, in fact, we put an organization together. I say we. I put the people together to form an organization at Smith Mountain Lake, which has since then fallen apart. I remember somebody bringing up a point that their feeling is the Republicans have been trying to take over these parties. And I didn't think about it until somebody said that very recently. And in fact, I'm not going to argue with them in some cases. But the excitement in 2010 versus now, night and day. Yeah. To me, the Tea Party's lost on a state level. If we can get the Tea Party behind a single issue, like term limits, and the Tea Party takes this issue and runs it through the 2015 and kicks 70% of these people out, yeah, we're going to be radical. And God bless us for being radical and making a change in the state. We'll get this done. We have 5.4 million voters in the state of Virginia. I'm a numbers cruncher. 13% of those people recognize themselves as Tea Party. If we just got that 13% to show up for a primary, we'd flip darn near 100% of the seats. I'm looking for 7 to 8%. That's all. But keep in mind, this isn't just a Tea Party issue. Again, 80% of registered voters recognize the need for term limits. This can and must be. This is the only thing I see. And I forgot to say at the beginning, but feel free to jump in at any point and tell me I'm crazy, that I need to move on. Here's something else we can do that'll work better. I'll walk away in a heartbeat and happily. Right now, I wish I were home on my farm and not having to run around trying to sell this. But this is, to me, and again, anybody that's got a better suggestion, please tell me. But for like as an example, fair tax. I've been a fair tax advocate from the time I learned about it. I had it plastered on my dually for 3 years. Love it. I think, and I'm a business person, got 8 different companies. I would love to see that would turn this country around in a heartbeat. But we're going to get it done. Not in our present direction that we're going. I had somebody ask me, boy, we'd love to term limit the judicial. I said, boy, I'd love to too. You think the legislature's going to do it? Not right now. So, but this is the key to getting their attention. We go in 2015 and we fire them all. And people say, well, there's going to be some good people out there. I'm worried about firing those good people. And I said, you know what, there are some good people, but if they're really good people, if they really care about the state, if they really care about this country, they'll step down. And they'll step down with a smile on their face knowing that they turned the country around, they were a part of it. When I just ran for delegate recently, which is a whole other story. But when I was running for delegate, I told people, I said, when you vote for me, I don't ask you, I demand of you in 2015, if the legislature doesn't get this done, you vote me out. And I said, don't worry about me. I guarantee I will dance the whole way home because I don't have to be in Richmond anymore. Yes?
Just a quick question. It seems like we have a lot of trouble getting people to run against the current incumbents. We have term limits. How do we make sure the next person in line is not just anointed by the party and just kind of a new body with the same attitude?
Two-part answer. One, we do our jobs as voters. We vet these people. But two, think about all of the people, and I brought up this delegate. I'm trying to avoid saying his name. But here, this delegate where they spent $1 million putting him in there. And there lies the big problem. People are scared. I mean, there's a reason why I was able to run for Congress. There was a reason why I ran a 5-week firehouse. Thank you. Brian was my campaign manager, and he's running the show for me with this. But I ran a 5-week primary. I dropped $50,000 of my own money doing it. When I ran for Congress, I dropped $300,000 of my own money. Now, RPV doubled that for their boy, Robert Hurt. The bottom line is I couldn't compete with that. I didn't have those kind of pockets. But stop and think about this now. There's a whole lot of people, good people. You can't tell me we can't find good people throughout the state to step up to the plate. Now, I understand it, but let me finish this. And there you go. Now, if come November next year, we have 400,000 signatures of people that are getting ready to fire the legislature. Well, let's say, I'm going to step up to the plate and put my name in there because I'm not going to have to spend that kind of money to get my name out there because they're going to fire the incumbent. That puts me in position to get into that office. So what I anticipate this doing, again, this is a whole evolution, but I anticipate good people saying, hey, you know what? It's time to step up to the plate. Time to go to Richmond and make a difference. I'll tell you what, the thought of me, I got ill. I went to talk to Lacey Putney. I don't know if you all know Lacey Putney, but he was the longest serving state representative in our country's history. He was a delegate for 52 years. And I went to Richmond to let him know, out of courtesy, that I was going to be running against him. That night I came home and told my wife, I said, you know what, I can't do this. I can't go to Richmond. It's filth. The Good Old Boy Network, what I saw going on in there was appalling. But those are the kind of people you need to go, the people who do not want to do it. And then you got to convince, I mean, how many people here would want to be a delegate or a senator? It scares me to death. It scared me to death having to go to Congress. I remember going to D.C. during that Tea Party episode. And I remember the drive, and I never thought about it that hard until I drove to D.C. and I was like, ew, you've got to be kidding me. I hope this doesn't bother some people. But we were coming back, I had a group of kids that worked for me, and I wanted them to go to D.C. with me, and they wanted to go see the White House. Well, the last place I wanted to see was the White House. So we're walking up that main drag, and we passed, what was it, the pub or whatever that, it's the congressional.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. We're all the congressmen kind of, and lobbyists.
And I remember passing that, I said, well, you know, it's not all that bad. I have a relief. But those are the kind of people we need to have to step up to the plate and do their job. So, you know, yes, it's our job to vote these people out. At the same time, it's going to be our job to find people to get in there and fix this mess. But it's the only way I see out of this in the short term. And if anybody could show me a better way, I would be more than happy to step aside. If I would love, and again, this is the other thing I've got to stress. We, the people. It's not up to me and Brian. If it just is up to the two of us running the state, it ain't going to happen. We're not going to get this done, and that's why I'm turning to the Tea Party, because I know most Tea Party people are more activists and they know what the problems are. And I would love, and I tell people too, if somebody wants to take this thing over and thinks they'll do a better job than me, wonderful. I have the title to the van. I'm ADD, but I have the title to that RV with me. I'll sign it over. I don't care who does this, how it gets done. I just want it done. To me, this is the answer. But until we, the people, step up and get it done, it's not going to happen. And we can turn this state around in 20 months. And as I said, we flip 50% of the seats. Somebody said to me, well, I don't know about this because we're going to end up losing more Republicans than Democrats. And I said, and the problem is what? Because, and again, another thing, I know I'm jumping on politics instead of this, but my attitude is real simple. The problems in this country aren't the fault of the Democrats. The problems in this country are the fault of the Republicans because the Republicans are moving to the middle, which has put this country left to center, and that's why this country's so screwed up. And until we have Republicans stand up on principle, we are dead in the water. Yes?
Jim, I take it a little further than that. It's the apathy of the citizens. We've been asleep. And there's plenty of apathy out there right now.
Well, and here's something I forgot to bring up. Sorry to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
I was going to go back. You need how many signatures to...
We're looking at maybe 8% of voters turn out for primaries, and that's where we turn this thing around in the primaries. And the key is here, we're not asking a Republican to vote Democrat, a Democrat to vote Republican. They go to their primary and stay in their party, but vote out the incumbent.
This is for term limits?
No, just turn them over.
Well, what we're doing was asking them to give us the opportunity to vote on it. But if they do not, then we, the people, will term limit them in the primary.
You know, I was thinking, Jamie Radke, when she ran, she needed, what, 300,000 to get on the primary?
On the ballot.
Yeah, to get on the ballot.
She needs
No,
300,000.
10,000.
No, it was,
10,000 to go on with that.
10,000
yeah,
or
it was
something
10,000.
like
It was a fixed number from each district.
Now,
Anyway,
yeah.
Tea Party was all over the state, everywhere, collecting those ballots.
Yeah.
And
We were too.
if we let more people know about this movement, maybe I'm ignorant, but I'm just learning about it tonight. And I'm involved in everything. You can ask these folks. We got to get the message out.
I've got Democrats in my office building, staunch Democrats collecting signatures for me. I'm telling you, when you talk to the people who are active in either party, but when you talk to the average person out there, and I don't care what party they're with, they're fed up. The other thing about apathy, to me it's at an all-time high, but it's more than just people being lazy.
Yeah.
Again, I talked about Congress. Let's talk about the state. We busted hump getting a Republican legislature and a Republican governor. And what were we rewarded with? The largest tax increase in the state's history at a time when we're taking in record revenue. Oh, and by the way, to get the Democrats to vote along with it, they took us a step closer to Obamacare. Our Republican conservative representatives did this. So can we imagine why the average, now I'm talking about the average person out there is thinking, why am I wasting my time going to vote? We voted conservatives in, and what did we get? Oh, I was never a McDonald fan. When McDonald took office, and it didn't raise taxes. When he took office, a septic well permit in this state was $225. 2 years later, $725. Our restaurant license went from $40 to $240. Another problem, where are our state legislatures? They put forward 3,000 pieces of legislation a year. I say, you know, let's put that stuff aside. Can we turn our attention to D.C. and tell them what they can do with their laws? That's what we need. I'd love to see Cuccinelli step in there with the legislature and just turn around and not cut the state government by 10%, but cut personnel by 10%. And let the rest take care of itself. And people say, oh, you can't do that. How can you get that done? I said, it's real simple. I'm a businessman. When you got something you need done, you hire the person to do the job. Come back 3 months later, not getting it done, boom, fired. Next in line, get online, get it done. You'll get it done. But anyway, I believe me, I've got too many political things to say. But again, I can't stress this enough. To me, this is the answer, and that's what I'm telling you. Like everybody else, look. Do we have trouble getting up in the morning sometimes?
Yes.
I have a 140-acre farm. I die every morning. It's like, oh, I don't want to leave. I wish I could walk away from this like the rest of the people, hide my head. I mean, I could retire today, never work another day in my life, and live in bliss. As long as I don't turn on the frickin' news. But to me, this is what will work. And I wish somebody could tell me that it won't so I can go home to my farm and not leave it. But that's what's driving me. I know in my heart that this is what will work. This will make it happen if we, the people, do this. Get 5,000 people throughout the state to collect 100 signatures over the next 20 months. Does that sound so impossible? I don't think so. This can happen. This can really happen. And I'll tell you what, if there's any time in our country's history, in our state's history that can happen, it's now. I mean, we stopped just to grab some dinner when people were approaching us on the bus. Where do I sign? People are fed up. Yes?
You think just being at big events with like the Tomato Festival, the Jazz Festivals next weekend?
We went, and Brian, for one thing, we wanted to go to the state fair. It was $5,500 to park my bus at the state fair. We went to the fair in Roanoke, which has a good turnout. What was fascinating about that fair is the average person going through that fair. You want to talk about the uneducated voter? And no lie, the last day, and Brian handled most of it, the last day I went there helping him, and I left the fair just going, what am I doing? This is not the route to go. This isn't going to work. And I remember I came off of 81 to 581, and what happens? Get stopped by a state trooper. And I was speeding, didn't even realize, because I was just so zoned into this isn't working. What do I do? Police officer was kind enough to say, look, Mr. McKelvey, says, you're 58 years old, I'm 57. Yeah. We should know better. We should. Any other questions? Yes?
Then one more. I was one of those 2 million votes over the internet that and the phone calls that made Cantor and Boehner during their
I was there too, yeah.
So why can't we put together a system whereby we can go out over the state, everybody that has a computer, and get them to vote?
And again, I am about as computer illiterate as they come. I have the idea, I have the bus, I put the command center in Bedford, I have 2,200 square feet of office space dedicated to this. I hired Brian full-time, but I don't have all the answers, and that's where I need we, the people, to step up and say, okay, we can do this. I remember initially my meetings were going, well, you need to do this, and you need to do that. And I said, no, I don't need, I said, we need to do this. I don't have all those answers, but I know it's out there. I'm in a bizarre state of mind right now, but I remember when this NSA thing came out, I have not been on my email site since this NSA thing came out. I haven't opened it up. I'm so spooked by that. But I know there's ways through the internet. As I said, I'm totally illiterate when it comes to it. Until somebody can tell me how I can make money on it, I'm not interested. But I know that it would work for this.
Can we collect signatures online?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes,
That-
okay.
we-
You
they
can
do
go on
it
our webpage, you can sign up on the webpage.
Yes.
We're working on trying, to get the word out. Again, a lot of these things, you can get these email lists, but you have to buy these email lists. That's why, when we contact Tea Party groups, we say, please forward, our link to our webpage to as many people as you can. I mean, there are firms where you can buy email lists. We looked into doing some direct mail, but again, you're looking at 22 cents to send out a piece of direct mail. The prices add up, really rather quickly.
What works best to get the messages out is what I'm doing right here, right now, question answer. When I go there and just spew something, I don't have the reaction I get when we sit here and are able to talk back and forth and get it done. But again, it's getting whether me or whoever wants to get out there and speak to these different meetings. I mean, we put out the documents to Dougherty, is his name? Mike Dougherty?
But
Mark Dougherty.
Mark.
Mark Dougherty.
And I guess he's a good administrator, but after 3 weeks, he sent it out to 40-some different Tea Party groups. We heard back from 8.
Three or four.
3.
I mean, every Tea Party we've spoken at, we've spoken at yours, we've spoken at one in Chester, one in Danville, the one in Roanoke. Every time we go there, we're picking up maybe 5 people who say, okay, give me some petitions and let me get them signed. So now if we go to these different events and we can get 5 or 6 people that will get me 100 signatures, or maybe give that to somebody else, or call someone in another part of the state that has a Tea Party group or some kind of group, we'll go speak to it. We've traveled quite a bit. I know Jim does most of the driving on the bus. He doesn't trust me to drive that thing because he's afraid I'm going to hit something, which is probably correct. But I do go with him and keep him from falling asleep. But we'll go pretty much anywhere.
I am joking.
But the other
To
thing is
speak.
too, and I'm serious, this bus is simply a tool to get the message out. It's a mobile billboard. And if people up here call me up and say, hey, can we use the bus for a couple weeks? Here you go. Have a ball with it. I don't care. As I said, I don't care who does this, how does it, who names on top. Doesn't matter to me. I'll disappear as long as this thing gets done. I don't care. But again, it has to be people. If you know people that would get involved with this on the computer end to get the message out, I'd love it. As I said, we've got a headquarters in Bedford. I'd love to see an office. What I've done is established the headquarters in Bedford. I put an office in Franklin County that's still waiting for people to start participating in it. But I'd love to see an office in every county in the state, however it happens. If we could get just people in different areas of the state to start getting this message out, however. I need help getting this done. As I said, it's all about we the people. We recognize that's what the problem is with who we're voting in. It's the same thing with this. In the end, the Constitution states we the people. We're the ones responsible to get it done. And with that, I should sit down.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Thank you.
Let me add, just taking notes while I was listening to what Jim had to say. Elected officials have often said to me when I've confronted them about, hey, you've been there 3 terms, 4 terms, would you step down? Bob, I'm a public servant. And I explained to them patiently, $175,000 a year, $1 million annual budget, and an unlimited expense account. You want to be a public servant, I'll call Major Mansfield up. You can meet us tomorrow morning, and we'll give you a paintbrush. We'll give you a set of post hole diggers, and we'll teach you a little bit about what public service is all about. They're career crony capitalists. Let me repeat that. They are career crony capitalists. They are slaves to the vested interest that manipulate them like puppets. And each party is wholly engaged. My second point, thousands of bills that are introduced every year. You remember last December when I asked you to vote for me, I pointed out one of the goals I had for this year, and I've encouraged leaders of other Tea Party groups to consider this. The mistake a lot of the local groups have committed, one of the mistakes a lot of the groups have committed, is they've overextended themselves. They tried to do way, way too much. They burned their volunteers out in a flash, and people said, you want me to do what? No thanks. One of the goals this year in Mechanicsville was to rein in, and I think we've done it. You know, we have reined in what we have tried to do. What we have done this year, I think we've done with a fair degree of success. At least I hope so. The overextension of resources. Jim has a dynamite idea. That's why I asked him to come down here and share it with us. I think it's a great idea. He took it to the state organization. How much time went by? A month? And you heard back from...
Well, it was mailed out after a month.
And again, commendable as it may be, a state organization has to recognize its limitations. And it has to laser-like focus. When my term is up, in another 8 weeks, I will begin in January. We've already begun some of the preliminary discussions on forming a new state Tea Party organization. I think I have the requisite skills to do it, and I think one of the first matters of business will be to rein in what we expect to do. The COLA committee does a wonderful job. They do a wonderful job. My view of an effective representation of a state Tea Party organization is we go to the representatives in the House and the State Senate from about 10 or 12 districts around the state. And we say we have 2 pieces of legislation, just 2. You will sponsor them or you will not. You will sponsor or co-patron them or you will not. If you don't, your name will be on 50 yellow signs. When the Federation was formed, your name will be on 50 yellow signs. Now, if you doubt the effectiveness of putting their names on signs, we got rid of 4 of them in King William County by putting their names on those yellow signs and reminding people, is eating out costing you more? Thanks Cecil Schools, November 2nd. Rumor had it his wife was trying to find a biker from up in Pennsylvania to whack me. That's a joke. That's a joke. The fact of the matter is, it's very effective. Now, when the Federation was formed, you had to have a list of 50 names, and it turns out a lot of these Tea Party groups around Virginia, there were 4 guys that met at Starbucks once a month and sat around and gripe for an hour and a half until they were buzzed out on, blonde roast. To get into the new state organization, there'll be a little bit more, shall we say, discriminating criteria. If you don't have an organization, if you really don't have an organization, we don't want you in the new state organization. All I want is 12 groups. That's all I need, is 12 groups. Because they will zero in, they will rifle in on 2 messages. And each one of these 12 groups that will belong to this, they will have to agree. We'll give them 90 days, 120 days to put 50 signs up in their respective area. If they can't do that, what do we want you for? I don't want dead wood to crawl over. I really don't. We did it here. This guy back here and this guy right here and me, and a handful of other people. Yeah, I don't want to miss anybody. Raymond, and, a handful of others. Brent, a handful of us have put 200 of the things up. So don't tell me you can't get 50 of them up around Bedford or Lynchburg or Roanoke or wherever, Springfield, wherever your group is. Don't tell me that. Oh, Bob, the restrictions, blah, 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 excuse, excuse, excuse. And then when you get the signs up, I don't want someone who well, Bob, you know, I don't want to offend anybody with the message. No, the purpose of the sign is to offend people. That's the whole purpose of the sign.
Get their attention.
Now, can we get signatures for his petition? Oh, we're heading to the sign shop after lunch tomorrow, Big Daddy. Okay? We can get signatures for his petition. We'll put 4 or 5 signs up in prominent spots, sending them to the website, kick the bums out. You know, I got some great cartoon caricatures. I mean, you've seen some of the stuff we've done in the insert down there in King William, some of the cartoon caricatures. We buy them for $10. And then we have free use of them after we pay a one-time $10 fee. We're getting ready to do another one down there. And we have a cartoon character that has become synonymous with the King William Tea Party. As soon as they see that cartoon character, they instantly recognize this is one of the Tea Party's things. And we have this, you know, this guy with a boot and his behind. We put an ad in the Tidewater Review for your appearance next week down there. And it's buffoonish, but it grabs people's attention. Okay? So it can be done. It can. What he has is a perfect remedy. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but you do have to enlist people to get off their butts. Now, on that subject, we need to put a ballot together for the election for the next board for this group. The vote will be on December the 5th. There will be a new board elected to be seated in January in the Mechanicsville TEA Party, in the King William TEA Party. There are many of you who perhaps have had a notion go through your mind. I were Bob, or I were Jim, or I were Sue, or I were Cheryl. I would have done it this way, or I would have done it that way. In 8 weeks, you'll have an opportunity to do it the way you'd like. I would ask you to recognize the group doesn't run itself. The group can't run itself. It does require a commitment by a committed group of people. And I go around the state and talk to Tea Party groups all over Virginia. Mechanicsville Tea Party, I'm very proud of this. And the King William Tea Party are 2 of the most effective, organized groups in the state. I'm very proud of that. You look at the events we had at Life Church this year. Excellent turnout. You know, we've got a lot of press. Got new people coming to our meetings. How many groups after 4 years can say that? Jim just alluded to the group that he helped nurture and get started. Many of these groups have fallen apart. Many of these groups don't even exist anymore. So it takes, you know, it takes someone who is committed to serving. And it is hard work. I won't kid you about that. But it's important work. Those of you who have children and grandchildren and care about the future of this country, what choice do you have, really? What choice do you have? To join the apathetic, to just lay down and quit? Put your name on the ballot. Serve as the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, or the treasurer for 1 year. You can't keep burning these same people out. And it's healthy for the group to get new blood. It's healthy for the group to get new people running them. So if you're interested in serving or putting your name on the ballot, the election will be on December the 5th, and the new board will be seated January 1. And then there'll be some, you know, I'm sure, some changes. Whoever it may be will be leading the group. May want to continue to do things the way they've been done with minor changes, and whoever may be leading the group may see fit to make major changes. I'll assist in any way I can. Right.
I just wanted to ask 2 questions to Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Does it take a constitutional amendment to make term limits?
Yes,
Yes.
but
So that's what we're going for,
Yes.
the amendment.
It has to be voted on twice by the General Assembly before it gets on the ballot. Just like the eminent domain.
Eminent domain, right.
Okay.
And the other thing I was thinking of is another possible, I like term limits, but what about publicly funded campaigns?
But again, in the end, it's gonna be our legislature that gets this done. Are they gonna get it done? Not while they're not paying attention to us. Again, the way I see this play
Term
out.
limits first and the public funded later.
No, not necessarily, because again, I reiterate this again. This is how I see this playing out. They're not gonna put it on the ballot in 2015 for us to vote on. They'll try to slip out of it, but it's not gonna get done. We, in June of 2015, will vote them out. All right? We still won't have a vote on term limits, but guess what? The people that we put in there are going to put it on the ballot for the next time for us to vote on. That's how I see this playing out. But by January of 2016, we will have a legislature that now we can turn to and say, okay, this is what we the people want. And we can take all those steps that we want to see that they get these things done. But again, I don't, this one piece, this one movement that we do, I honestly believe will make everything else happen, because not only will we have their attention, but we're going to have 500,000 people plus out there, plus other people who didn't vote that are going to go, whoa, look what these people did by voting in a primary. And we're going to have a whole lot more people interested in government, because they're going to stand and say, you know what, we the people can do this. So as I said, it will be a fascinating time after 2015 in June. We get this done. It will be an absolutely, to me, a wonderful time. We get this done.
If the petition is done online, what happens? Is it an official position? You just print it out?
Yeah, we just print them out and I stock them, and then what I'm doing is I have a database. I'm sorting them by legislative district and Senate district, House district and Senate district. So right now we have about 5,000 signatures. Say we have 70, 80, 100,000 signatures. I can go to, let's say, for example, Senator McDougal and say, you know what, Senator McDougal, I got 7,000 people in your district alone that are supporting term limits. I could go to Delegate Peace and say, you know what, Delegate, I got 6,000 people in your district alone that wants term limits.
Now,
that gives us incredible power, because now you're giving them a number. And a lot of people are very hesitant about signing because they're afraid of potential ramifications or something. So we're not going to give these to these jokers and say, here, so they can get all the names and start calling people and trying to sell you something else. If they say, well, gee, we don't know if they're real, we'll have an independent person come in and verify the number and say, yeah, there are 10,000 signatures. We have 100,000 signatures. Because I know if we give
And we had Acorn help us.
Right. If we give these to these guys, what they'll do is they will get robocalls to the people, try to scare them, and they'll resort to the Obama tactic we see now to scare people. Oh, we'll take your Social Security away if you have term limit. They'll say anything they can to prevent it from happening.
But
so we're not going to give that information to anyone.
It's important to me, and as I said, I'm an extreme here, but to me, our privacy is so very important.
Yes.
This information will be shared with no one. It will be on a computer for our use and our use only.
I wasn't worried about that,
Yeah.
but I mean,
But some people are, believe it or not. We've had some people that were
now,
very nervous about saying,
just a second, Major. Now, can I download the petition, in other words, and I can send it to
yes,
my minions?
you can download an individual for one person. You can download a sheet like this where they can get
Well, no,
10 signatures.
I would send individual ones to,
Right, you can just send it to them.
and then they can sign it and
Right.
send it to their minions.
Right, and then
There you go.
they come back to me, I print them out, I enter them in my database, sort them, and that. I had a woman in Chesterfield who, when we talked to them, I guess last week, she offered to help with some of the data entry, because, I have a
Yeah, so I
stack.
was thinking about that.
I have a stack like this, that has to be, you have to take it and you check it against the voter base to see if they're registered, find out
I
what,
like the way you said we.
to find what legislative district, what Senate district, make sure they're registered, So then it's on an Excel spreadsheet, so then it's very easy for me to just, sort by, District 20, District 19, whatever the district may be, and I can get a count. So now, when that primary day comes, and we have someone primarying senator from District 4 or whatever, I could send an email to those people from District 4 and say, hey, what? Okay, remember when you signed that petition? Remember the other part of that petition was to vote these guys out? Well, guess what? The primary is this June. Here's your chance. Go vote.
Major, you had a question?
How many states are already on?
Term limits, 15.
15 states have them.
15. Do we know how they do?
They have direct petitions, which allows them, if you get 2,000 signatures, you can put it on the ballot, and the people vote for it.
Those 15 states, you do not have to go through legislature to have something put on the ballot. That's why they were enabled to go ahead and vote on it. Any state that you've got to go through legislature will not permit the people to vote on it, including the state of Virginia.
Do we have any in our legislature that might be for this?
Yes, a few.
So, go ahead.
I sent out this form to every House of Delegate member that's running, and everyone that's running against them, and all the statewide office holders. As far as the statewide people that are running, we got a response from E.W. Jackson. He supports term limits. Okay, we got one from Mr. Sarvis. He said he supports it, but he only believes one term for the governor, not two.
So do I.
We did that just for the chance of having it overturned. It has been overturned.
It has been overturned because of that, because of varying numbers with governor versus legislature.
Most of the elected legislators on the Republican side send a form letter that Speaker Howell has recommended that they send out, saying that, we're too busy to do surveys. Just so you know, for the last 3 years, I've worked up at the General Assembly. I was the chief of staff for a state senator, and it was Senator Stanley. That's who I worked for. I ran all his campaigns. So I was up there in 3 years. Trust me, 3 years up there, I saw how corrupting this system is.
We asked Tommy Norman, State Senator Tommy Norman, in King William 2 months ago, what his opinion was on term limits. He said, we're a part-time legislator.
Yeah.
Now stop and think about it for a minute. Stop and think about that for a minute. If that's so, what is it that attracts a reputable, competent attorney like State Senator Tommy Norman? What is it that's so appealing to him to stay there for 23 years? Okay?
Can I answer that?
He needs the part-time job.
Can I answer that? I'm a businessman. I do real estate. My businesses revolve around real estate. If I was corrupt at all, I guarantee you put me in Richmond, I'm going to make money. It's called insider trading, inside information. I guarantee you, I could go there and my business would blossom. I know how to make money. And it's the same thing with Congress. And remember this insider trading thing where all of a sudden everybody, oh my gosh, there's insider trading in Congress? So they pass a bill, then 2 months ago they just got it.
I mean, we have a sitting president. The only mortgage that he's ever taken out was with a felon who's now serving time in prison. I mean, it's not just at the local level. It's politics has become a profession where those that succeed in it as a profession are the ones who are capable of navigating the perilous path that Jim just alluded to. They don't put their name on something, they put their spouse's name on it. They don't put their name on something, they have their brother-in-law's name on it, or their cousin, or their college roommate. Look at Dennis Hastert, the former Speaker of the House from Illinois. This guy was a former phys ed teacher from Illinois, was viewed among the general public and his constituents as a squeaky clean guy. And then we found out, I think he took the course that Bud Schuster used to teach, the congressman from central Pennsylvania. And what happened when Bud Schuster left office? His son took his place. So it's like, you know, in many respects, it's like the mob. In many respects, it's like an organized crime family.
Absolutely.
I don't take any pride as an American in someone who loves this country and stand here and saying that. But I understand what they're doing, and they know that I know what they're doing. So this idea that we don't want to offend anybody, believe me, if we can get this new state organization off the ground, this will be one of the first objectives we take on, and it is smash mouth. Smash mouth. No more of this civility. They're destroying this country. I'll be civil until I see one of my grandchildren, you know, circling the bowl, and then I say, you know what? Whatever I got to do to save that grandchild, I'll do. And that's really using that as a metaphorically speaking. That's where we're at. This country's circling the ball. You know, let's give a nice, warm Mechanicsville Tea Party thank you to Jim and Brian for coming all the way down.
I need the energy.
Well, we'll